us. So we're good to go. Inaugural beta test version of I'm Calling HR, which is our Facebook live show podcast, probably be on YouTube and all sorts of other platforms. You know, I'm sure it'll be big on CNN, Fox, and MSNBC before you know it. I am your primary host, Will Tenney with Employernomics, and my guest there, the mystery shopper in the dark there, that is Tim Russell. I know, we got to do something about the light.
It's dark in this room.
We're going to get you a candle or something. It's presented by Employernomics and Payroll Medics, and we're hoping that the owner of Payroll Medics, Michael Murray, will be joining us shortly. If you want to contact us, this is the email, info@employernomics.com. There's a website contact form. You can call that number. You can send us questions, suggestions, interesting topics. And of course, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, you can just type it into the comments. And we're going to try to answer them live. If you want to get on the show with us on Zoom, either today or another time, send us a private message and we can give you the link and you can Zoom in with us and be part of the show. So our sponsors, oops, I'm blocking our sponsors. There they are. Payroll Medics, Employernomics, PEO Matchmaker, and Careaway HR. And I suppose we should include Enterprise HR and Encore HR today, huh?
I wasn't even there.
Okay, well, you don't need, it's not a money thing yet. We'll send you the bill.
Okay. I'll send you the check.
Our weekly guest today is Tim Russell, who I'm hoping becomes a regular co-host, because I'm sure this is going to be interesting. We will start featured clients next week. The featured strategic partner was planned to be the Matchmaker, and Tim and Kim Bordeaux may be joining us later. We also have somebody else who might be joining us. She has not yet indicated, but if she jumps in, we'll say hello. And then we're going to talk about HR nightmares and war stories. And of course, we'll go through our industry update. And then Tim and I are just going to do what we love to do, which is talk rumors. And there will be no politics, absolutely. No politics on this show at all. None. Nothing. We are not going to say MAGA 2020 once. We're not going to do anything like that. Oh, we just did, didn't we? Oh, well. And by the way,
it's your show. You get it in one time.
It's our show.
Yeah.
So, and also I have heard that we have a large contingent from Nova Scotia watching us right now. Wow. So it's 5 o'clock in Nova Scotia. So here's to you, our friends in Nova Scotia. Here's some bourbon to you.
There you
go. And no, you didn't make this yourself, but I'd like to try some of your hooch someday.
Exactly.
So we were talking just before the show about, obviously there's a crisis going on in our country today, which I asked my doctor when it's going to end, and he says, how should I know? I'm not a politician. So
that's funny.
But businesses are trying to restart. They're like restaurants, retail stores. Now that Florida has moved to phase 2 and several other states are moving where they have limited opening or they can have people inside, you know, the smaller stores. The bigger stores always could, but now the smaller stores can too, which makes me go, huh? But you said you haven't really given them a recovery plan. You've helped them get the PPP loan.
Right.
How about the emergency disaster, whatever that is, EDIA loan?
Yeah, we've gotten a few requests for that type of stuff. You know, we manage basically as a high risk PEO. We manage mostly the money. We don't do a whole lot of the HR functions. We get those on a case-by-case basis. We don't really dive in and offer HR services, although we have certified PHRs. My wife is one. You know, it's more of a function of payroll and comp. We have had those requests, but we did help about 600 of our clients get the reports needed to get their PPP loan.
Now, you don't need a PHR or a SHRM to do that kind of stuff, do you?
No, absolutely. You don't need it. But again, it's like anything else. When you start offering up, you know, services, whatever the service is, it's better to have somebody who does have a license so that when eventually you get sued, you have some backup.
We've got SHRMs and PHRs on staff. I joined SHRM recently. I'm in the process of getting certified myself.
Right.
So that's a function that we provide to our clients to assist the PEOs. Yeah. Obviously, as a PEO, and for those people who are watching this for the first time, we probably should just tell people what a PEO is. Do you want to handle that, or you want me to take a stab at it?
I'll give you the overview from an owner standpoint. We act as a co-employer for our clients. We take over the functions, and every PEO is a little different, but our PEO takes over the functions of making sure that the payroll is done correctly for their employees. The taxes are paid, the unemployment paid, the workers' comp is shared, not provided, shared, and that if they do have questions about, can they do this or can they do that as far as HR functions, we're a source for them. Basically, all of the stuff. If you own a pizzeria, you're probably very good at making pizza and not good at anything else. And we take over all of those functions.
That's a good description. Here, I'm going to pop up an image here. I better share it for you so you can see it too. Hopefully this helps if it loads. Come on, there it comes. So let me make this bigger. So that's the relationship, basically, right?
Yep, that's it.
Incidentally, Napio stole this from me.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. There's me and Wayne Bridges and I developed this diagram in 2005.
That's your Venn diagram? They just borrowed it?
And funny how it ended up on Napio's website in 2007. And I'm still waiting for my check.
Yeah, you gotta start tagging at the bottom with your name.
You know what? Yeah, fine. But this is what I was going to say is there are certain HR responsibilities that are yours as the PEO. There are certain HR responsibilities that are the clients as the actual employer. And of course, there's shared responsibilities as the employee. I would think that this number one area is really important. But tell me how those are defined, Tim.
The service contract, the number one portion, lays out legally what we will do and what we're able to do. There is an IRS designation, a differential that forces us to do some things, allows us to do others, and prevents us from doing the third. The contract defines what we will do as an employee leasing company and the client's responsibilities, and it generally ours doesn't leave any gray area. Sometimes they leave gray areas because they don't want to hold themselves out for that, but we've found by experience that gray areas just take you to court. Two.
And I have read your contract.
Yeah.
Word for word. I've been through your contract several times.
Yeah.
And I agree. There might be a gray area or two that slipped in, but yours is very obviously written by somebody with a lot of experience in the industry.
Yeah, we spend a lot of money and time and effort on trying to make it fair. I mean, there has to be consideration for both sides in any contract, and what we say we'll do is what we're going to do, and what we expect the client to do and be responsible for, we also expect them to be responsible for those things.
Okay, we've seen enough of that. Yeah, got that picture memorized, everybody?
Yep, I got it.
My friends in Nova Scotia, you got that picture? Okay. I'm just getting a notice that the friends in Nova Scotia are not on yet.
Okay.
So, all right, I'm going to back off on the bourbon for a little bit.
They can watch the recording.
Till they join us, yes. Okay, but now let's getting into what we talked about there was well, as the employer of record, which the PEO is,
yep,
your federal ID number is the one that's identified with the employees.
Yeah, when you start at the top for legal responsibilities, we are the beginning and the end. So we're responsible for the taxes. We're responsible for the unemployment. We're responsible to make sure that there's legal workers' comp that's being shared with the shared client, or shared employees, and everything that can really get you in trouble as far as money is concerned, I'm responsible for. The client in general is responsible for day-to-day coordination and responsibility for the actual employee being safe and paid correctly.
So, like you said, you're the first line of defense.
Yep.
Now, from a PEO owner standpoint, to you, that means, oh my gosh, I've got a whole lot of liability.
Yeah, yeah. So in essence, I've got 13,000 employees, each of them with all of the federal taxes, unemployments, and $500,000 per employee of risk for an injury.
So, this is bad news for you as the PEO owner, but actually for the client, that's great news.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean, that's the reason they're going to you, is to transfer some of that liability from them to you. It's part of the fee.
Yeah, right? I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I would bet that 50% of our clients don't look at it that way. I think they look at it as this is just easier to do. And most of them recognize that it's probably cheaper because they've seen both ways. But it's also much easier to make one phone call or one fax, and the payroll, the taxes, the unemployment, and the comp are handled.
That's a good point. They need to make one call.
One call.
And you are like, let's suppose they're having an HR problem. If I like what Tim Bordeaux says once in a while. He'll say, like, suppose you're in a situation where there's an HR problem and there's a lawsuit that comes in. Now, is the PEO going to defend you in the lawsuit and then leave you alone? I don't know. But if you don't have a PEO, who's going to help you? Right?
When you get to the point, there's different types of HR problems. There's HR problems that the owners or employees at the client company create. And then there's most of the HR problems that I would be responsible for would be for a lack of designation inside of the service contract. It would be an omission that generally gets us in trouble.
Well, let's take a common one, an injury.
Yeah.
You got an injury at work.
Yep.
In that case, you're the employer of record.
Yep.
It's your workers' comp policy that they're going to file the claim against. They need to call you to report the claim.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a very, very defined set of checklists when an employee is injured, either on the spot or discovered at a later date, that the client has to go through, that we want them to go through in order to protect not only them, but to protect the comp policy.
And to protect the employer, in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when I say them, I mean the employer. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant the employee, because we're also concerned about the employee's health. Our goal is to get the employee back to health as soon as possible and back to work as soon as possible. Right?
Maximum medical improvement is what the legal term is. So right. For the employee who gets injured, the comp, they really don't care who provides it as long as it's legally there. Right. We're better at managing the claims on an ongoing basis going forward from the injury.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go to, is because you this isn't your first barbecue. You guys have handled thousands, literally thousands of claims in your career, so you know how to handle them efficiently.
2 a day, every day.
So you're a professional partner to have. Whereas if somebody is without a PEO and somebody gets hurt, they're like, oh God, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Well, with you, they pick up the phone and go, Mr. PEO, I got a claim. What do I do? And it's transferred. That's the easy button, right? It's now your
that is the easy button. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I tell people, like, if you don't want to have to deal with that and you would like to have a professional HR partner, well, that's who you got to get.
Yeah. I mean, if you've been an employer, or if you've been an employer and ever had an employee be injured, because in a lot of businesses, employees are not only family, but they're friends you treat like family. And seeing somebody you care about get injured on the job is devastating. And it can cloud your judgment. You can you can really harm yourself by trying to manage it yourself.
Yeah, especially if you try to cut corners.
Yeah.
If you try to cut corners, you're gonna get your you're behind bitten.
Oh yeah, that's a you know, all the way up to and including go to jail if you do it wrong.
Right. So you said something in there. I'm not going to let it slip by because I thought it was great. We should back out and remember exactly how you said it. Is that if an employee gets hurt, they're going to call you. You're going to take it over, but you're the professional partner. You know how to. Okay. Yeah, you basically said that. There's something I missed, and my memory was the second thing to go. So, I heard the Nova Scotians are back on again. Okay, thank you.
There we go.
Yeah, there they are. They're waving at us. Here's to you. By the way, we now our system, the matchmaker system, now has Canadian PEOs in it.
Oh no, that's real.
And we also have. I understand we got one from the Ukraine is in there.
How many Canadian PEOs are there?
I don't know. All I know is that I don't know if they're necessarily Canadian PEOs or PEOs that are licensed to do business in Canada.
Okay.
I don't know if they're based in Canada, but somebody just placed a client in Canada through the matchmaker. So I'm excited about that. And we just had a Ukrainian PEO consortium, I guess, join, and they're representing all kinds of countries all over Eastern Europe. So I think it's kind of cool that we're going bad, we're going worldwide.
Yeah.
And so I should probably mention that they are one of the show's featured strategic partners. They're not joining us by now. They probably won't, but they're very busy, and actually I want them to keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But the matchmaker is a wonderful piece of software that changes daily. It grows daily. When I first started talking to Tim Bordeaux about it 4 years ago, when we first started franchising, I think that was 2016 or maybe it was 2000. It was a while ago. And he pulled up the software and I looked at it and it was not impressive. It looked like something that had been written on MS-DOS in the 90s. It looked like Leisure Suit Larry or something like that, Sure. But here's the cool thing about it, though. This is at 9 o'clock at night, and he and I were in the middle of a 2-hour phone call. And I said, it'd be really nice if they would do this. And he goes, give me 5 minutes. I'll call you back. And 5 minutes later, he calls back. He goes, take a look at it now. I said, how'd you get that done at 9 o'clock at night? He goes, hey, I'm working. I figure my IT guys are just sitting on the couch eating Cheetos, watching TV. I'll put them to work.
Right.
And that's the kind of service that we've gotten. And he has listened to every single input we've given him. And if it was feasible and worthwhile to implement, he did it. There's now, you can request a cert through it now. And
wow.
People who aren't really paying attention or who aren't deeply into this business is when you want to go do a job if you're a subcontractor, the contractor will sometimes ask you for a certificate of insurance, which states you have workers' comp.
How many carriers can you submit to?
Well, it actually goes to the PEO.
Okay.
So it goes to that person in the PEO who is responsible for issuing certificates. Like I think it's Kevin at yours.
Yeah.
Okay, so it would go to Kevin, say so-and-so needs a certificate, and here's the information, and then Kevin would call up Sons and get it done. Because you're with Sons Insurance, right?
So we have 3 carriers, but Sons is primary.
And oh really?
No, so we have Sons, Clear Spring, and State National.
State National. Okay, those are kind of like 3 of the big 4.
Yeah, that's 3 of them. And you got to remember that. You got to remember, I'm the we have the number 1 policy at Sun. So I was the original investor in Sun.
Policy 1.
Policy 1. 17 years. That's got to be a record.
And that was Ed, right? Ed invested.
No, that was Ed and I and Ian Irwin.
Okay.
And Ian Irwin, and then Clear Spring. We have one of the first policies available in Florida, and then we have a smaller deductible policy for different types of businesses at State National.
It's good to know. So
yeah,
you provide a lot of different coverages.
Yeah, we give so we've got 13 available PEOs, 4 that we operate on an ongoing basis with 4 different SUTA rates.
So okay, again, people are going to wonder what that SUTA is, the state unemployment tax rate. although it's called reemployment tax now. So
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
refer
No.
to
So
it.
as a business in the state of Florida or most states, when you start a business, you get an initial introductory rate, which is usually not pleasant. And as you go along and you gain experience with the state, if you have a favorable expenditure to income ratio with the state, they will give you a lower rate. And it usually takes about 13 quarters for that to happen. And
Is it
so
really
we have
13?
a full rating takes about 13 quarters.
You know, you're right, because when I used to incubate shells, that was a little side business of mine.
Mhm.
And I remember at 10 quarters, I'd get a reduction, but it wasn't down all the way to the full 0.1. It took the next
If you run enough money through it, you can do it in 8, but it usually takes 13.
8.
Yeah, you can do it in 8, but you got to run a lot of payroll.
I thought it was 10 quarters minimum. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So, all right, yeah, because I've sold a few of those.
Yeah.
So
They're still valuable assets. I mean, if you still had some, I would recommend that you go to the GBPR initial meetings and catch the people that are trying to get licensed.
she's a business coach, and she's going, oh, she's out at the beach.
Nice.
Nancy's out at the beach. Isn't that wonderful?
My happy place.
Nancy, this is my good friend, Tim Russell. Tim, this is my strategic networking partner, Nancy Abramson, who is a very successful business coach.
Awesome.
We're talking about PEOs and what they do and what they don't. And so I wanted to bring you in next week as a full-time guest to go over how we network with each other. But I figured as long as you were available, and this is sort of a test run we're doing today anyway, just to see if we're working out all the mechanics of how to do this. So,
Okay.
But
You caught me at just the right time. The rain, the storms passed, and I had just gotten a break because I ended up having 2 phone calls that kind of took me off. So I'm like, I'm making a run for Publix now because I got meetings later, and I'm going to make a run for it. And I got you next. I'm like,
and do you have your clock, your little timer ready?
I
Can you
did.
give us the 45-second about what you do? Because this is what she makes me do every Monday, by the way. She leads a networking group I'm in, and she's teaching me how to do a 45-second elevator pitch. You got quiet. You muted yourself. Don't do that. Don't mute yourself.
I did not do it intentionally because you did what I have done once or twice. It's not 45 minutes. You have 45 seconds.
Is that what I said?
Yes.
I'm sorry. My memory was the second thing to go.
I don't want to know what the first is.
I already forgot what that is anyway.
Okay. Clock is ready.
So tell us what your business is all about.
Okay. And actually, I am testing a new intro that I came up with this morning during my marketing thing. So you get to give me some feedback on it.
Sounds great.
Okay. Hello, I am Nancy Abramson, and I'm a success coach. And I help busy entrepreneurs get the most important stuff done so they can feel accomplished, successful, and happy.
Okay.
Do you like that better than the other one that I did?
Are you going to be mad at me if I say no?
No.
Okay, because
and so the rest of my 45 seconds, I'll tell you what my programs are and where you can find me. But no, give me your feedback.
what I want you to tell me, Nancy, is what problems you fix. Because then if I hear somebody that has that problem, I can go, oh, I know someone that can fix that.
Okay.
It's sort of a pain-based selling thing. You know, I want to hear.
I totally understand that. And it was definitely something I had to learn and practice as the nurturer and the empath that I am. Pushing the pain point to make people uncomfortable to then solve it was not comfortable. But so who I am a success coach. I am a reformed corporate person. I spent decades working in businesses, working crazy hours. I was an accountant, CPA, CFO, and now I work with busy entrepreneurs that are feeling too busy frustrated, not sure how they're going to get it all done, getting distracted doing the wrong things, whose businesses are not growing to the levels that they want, and I help them make more money in less time.
See,
So
now
that's easy.
that I can work with, because I know tons of people like that. So Tim and I are both owned businesses for a long time. He's owned, you got car dealerships, pawn shops, and a PEO. What else?
Yeah, I own about 40 companies.
Yeah. So he's right down that. I mean, you two need to talk offline.
Okay.
So do you, when you?
And I love that we all have the music thing in common too.
Yeah, he's.
I'm noticing all the guitars in the background.
I think that's just because he owned a pawn shop and he ran out of places to put them.
No. It actually, it's a funny story, but it's the exact opposite way around.
Fell in love with the music and that caused the pawn shop?
So I collect guitars, and I have one upstairs. It's nothing but guitars. And I brought two home one day, and my wife caught me coming in with them. And she asked me where they were going, and I said, back on the wall. And she said, so those are two old ones? I said, yeah, they're coming back from the repair shop. And that was a lie, and she caught me. And she said, the two are coming in, 2 are going out. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. I said, I'm just going to open a pawn shop, and I'll resolve the whole problem. I'll take them all out. And one pawn shop turned into 5, and they got to be real work, and I don't really like working. And so we sold them. And at the end, after we sold all 5 of them, I ended up with about 40 more guitars than I started with. Very unhappy about that.
You said a good phrase there. You don't like.
You're unhappy. You're happy. Your wife is unhappy.
Yeah, I am unhappy but I'm not giving up the guitar.
But you know what? I like what you said is you don't like working.
I didn't know. I'm very good delegator. You don't want me to put me in charge of anything having to do with paperwork or that goes bad.
I like to view myself as a creatively lazy person.
I'm the best one you've ever seen.
I'd rather work smart than hard any day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because anybody can work hard, and you should. In the beginning, you have to work hard.
Oh yeah, because you can't afford to pay somebody.
Yeah. Well, once you get to the point where you've had a lot of, like I started several businesses that failed. I started a sailing business in upstate New York, where the sailing season is 5 months long. That was going to be pretty tough.
Yep.
But so
make a lot of money and budget really well.
But every time it failed, I said, okay, I'm going to learn from this. And you do learn a lot more from failures than you do from success. Sometimes it's a forced, painful lesson. But I learned that I need to start thinking. It's more important to think than to do manual labor. Manual labor is required in the beginning. You got to work hard in the beginning, but once you sort of know, like you and I, we've had the experience, we kind of know, like, no, don't go down that road. That's not going to work, right? And you're probably the same way, Nancy, as a coach. You can probably tell people, I've seen people go that way, that didn't work. Let me tell you why, right?
Well, and it's definitely, the younger generations are not plagued with the same thing that we are, is that like we were raised with, like, you have to work hard to make money. Like money comes, like hard work equals money, but that's not necessarily true. And it's really not the hard work, it's the smart work, but that's not what we were raised with. And certainly not me. I had a father that worked 3 jobs when I was little. My mother worked full time, and you worked hard and you had to work hard.
I agree with that. I mean, I believe that you can, we know people that work really hard, and they're not going to be stopping working anytime soon.
Right.
And I mean, the American dream in the 50s and 60s was go to college, get a degree, get a good job, work 40 years and retire, right? Get the gold watch and retire. And
I was the poster child.
And to think that doesn't work anymore. That hasn't worked for a long time, especially since now, and this is a little controversial, but I think women's lib was a great thing, but it sort of had a little bit of a backfire, is that now both people can work. So they end up paying the man less because his wife can go to work. So now you've got both mom and pop working and paying childcare and everything. And again, hard work is not doing it. So we need to come up
I
with,
don't think they're paying the men less. I think that our expenses have just doubled and things have gotten more expensive. So it just occurs to you as paying
could be
less.
that. I mean, but the ratio's off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm not trying
Cars
to.
are more expensive, houses are more expensive.
Yeah.
Now people are used to wanting more toys, more things. So you're feeling like you're getting less, but you're actually getting paid just as much, if not more. The money's not going as far.
I'll go with that. Yeah, I can agree with that. The money's not.
I think economics takes care of itself once people started making two incomes. You know, the people that sold them things realized that.
Yep.
Maybe that's it.
And then because you had two incomes, oh, we can afford more, so let's buy more.
Yep.
And we have credit cards now, so we can get more.
We have Shane Underwood listening in right now. Used to be a salesman for me way back in the day. Now he's on. I mean, Shane, you're at some PEO in Lakeland now, aren't you? You can type in the chat. So it's good to see people joining. Oh, hey, the Nova Scotia people are back.
They're only part-time.
It's past 5 o'clock in Nova Scotia, so I'm having a drink with them.
It is definitely.
That joke's it's either gonna
5
go
o'clock somewhere.
or it's gonna get really old. I predict that one will probably be used a lot until people get sick of it. So Nancy, when you coach a small business owner, do you ever run into small business owners that are having difficulties with employees?
I guess it depends on what kind of difficulties. Yeah, I mean, there's always been, a challenge here or there, but is it a difficult employee that needs rehabilitation or the door? Not yet.
Well, not even just the employees themselves, but the work that comes with it. I mean, do you know anybody that has perfect employees that take care of everything themselves? See, that's usually the reaction I usually get. I mean,
Actually, no. I think one of my clients, there's one person that he's a little challenged by every once in a while, but for the most part, he loves his employees.
well, does he have insurance for them?
Yes.
Does he run payroll?
Yes.
Is he at risk for those functions? I'm teeing you up, Tim. You realize that.
Oh, I know. It's coming. I know it.
So,
I know it.
So you go to somebody like Tim Russell with one of his 27 or 1,000 PEOs he has over there, however many they are, and they become the employer of record and take away a good chunk of the liability of the payroll and they take over the insurance, right? Take over the workers' comp.
Yep.
So have you ever worked with a client who had any challenges in that field at all? Not that you can remember, huh?
As a business coach, do you deal with that, or are you dealing more with the owner's mindset?
More so lately, it's been the challenges have been not so much that it's either the mindset, it's how to get them out of the way, how to get like the marketing message, how to get new products out there. Why are you not selling it? Why are you not putting yourself out there?
It's interesting because I see both sides of it. I'm a business owner also, and the one of the things that owners discount sometimes is their own time, and they don't realize how many things that they control that they really shouldn't control. They don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. to make sure payroll is done correctly. Did they let their insurance policy lapse because they didn't pay attention to it? Do they have employees actively working against them? Just by turning other employees against the business for no good reason. All these problems that you have as an owner that don't make you pizza, that don't pump gasoline, ends up being 60-70% of the day, and they don't even realize it. They just expect, I wake up, I go to sleep, and in between then I work, and they just don't see where their time goes.
Well, no, and I do a whole lot with the time management and where does the time go. And helping them to make the shift from, for some of them, are you working in your business or are you working on your business, which is what you are.
That used to be our catchphrase.
Yeah.
We help you work on your business instead of working in it.
Well, and there were so many things, like I was aware of some of it, but then as an entrepreneur, you don't always like take the time to step back and look objectively. And a couple people kept recommending me, and I read, when I finally listened to it, because I did the audiobook, it was like such a wake-up call and a smack in my face on so many things that I was like, oh, who's going to know, because it's just me. Or, oh yeah, I just get by with that. And it's like, oh no, this is not the foundation I need for the growth that I say I'm having or what I'm stepping into.
It's so hard to get across to an owner who's so deep inside of trying to do everything, and not to get them to realize, look, if you continue to do this thing this way, then you will never get to your end goal.
Right.
You can't create more hours. You can't create more time for this to make it bigger. And unless they offset and hire people to do these things, even though they're maybe not as good as them, unless they partition that out to somebody else, you're never going to create enough bandwidth to do anything bigger than what you're doing.
Right.
I've often said, if there was an 800 number hotline to God where you could trade a couple $1 million for another year, I would beg, borrow, and steal that money to do that. But I haven't found that number yet. You can get more money. We can't get more time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's and it's the number one thing you're going to talk to any successful person. Really doesn't measure. I know some people are going to honestly write a check for $1 billion. I mean, write a check, it clears. They don't got to move money around. They can do that, and they value time.
Would you introduce them to me, please? Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, me too, please.
Yeah. No, they're good people, but they're extraordinarily good time managers.
Yes.
They don't talk about China.
No,
Not that good.
They're not worried about China. They're not worried about COVID. They're not worried about anything. They have a goal, and every day they wake up and they make sure that it progresses.
I was just gonna say, that's the only guy I know who brags about how much money he has. Most Americans.
You would never know these people that have that kind of money.
Most Americans do.
Oh, I know a few of them that walk around in like jeans and not in the fancy cars, or they're like a good car, but
You're wearing pants? Oh my. Don't you know that Zoom pants aren't required? Sorry. I'm wearing shorts. Sorry. Anyway, so we're getting off. I guess what Jim and I were leading up to is that if you had a client like that who was having difficulties like that, would you consider referring them to somebody for HR assistance? I mean, yes. I know that my coaches I've worked with in the past have always said, hire expertise. Don't try to do everything yourself. Outsource whatever you can.
Right.
I assume you do the same?
When it's appropriate, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's such a conversation I had with Buffy on Monday with the marketing person, because she hates doing the sales calls. She hates her marketing. She doesn't do sales. She doesn't want to do any of the social media. And so that was the conversation that we had.
So we are being broadcast here, so a lot of people don't know who Buffy is. So.
Oh yeah, so sorry.
Tim's like, who's Buffy?
I don't know.
Buffy's got a neat little business called Be Organized Today, where she can come in and organize your office, your home, your garage, or anything, any space that needs to be organized. She should probably team up with a pawn shop. I bet she. You don't have storage facilities too, do you, Tim?
Oh yeah, no. You mean storage locker, like garages and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, did you rent out? You don't rent out. You don't own a storage facility, do you?
I own a warehouse, but it's for my stuff.
I thought about getting into that business because that's people. I would immediately.
Tremendous business.
I would refer Buffy to everyone in that business because obviously they have a need to put stuff somewhere.
Often a big example from the whether it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or like a lot of those books, they say you want the passive income, and they say get yourself a laundromat or a storage facility.
Yep.
That's usually the first examples they give.
Did
Yeah,
he?
they're tremendous businesses.
I didn't know he mentioned that in that book. I know he mentioned getting rental property. I didn't realize. I read both those books too, the Cash Flow Quadrant and Rich Dad Poor Dad. I must have missed the one about the storage facilities.
I think he talks about when he does his live presentation.
It could be.
Yeah.
Because I've seen him live as well as read the book, and where it came, which version it came from, I can't tell.
I met him a couple. You talking about Robert Kiyosaki?
Yeah.
I met him a couple times. Very interesting person.
Yeah.
Very, very confident.
If you're going to stand in front of people and talk, you better be.
He does that well.
Yeah.
We're getting better at it. That's one of the things I've been told is we need to get out more. My company does, that the heads of state of employeronomics need to get out and do more public speaking, more free talks, podcasts, maybe.
Yeah, I don't.
Well,
know,
didn't you do?
it's difficult to aggregate the type of people that bring us to business, whether it be the broker or the end user client. Typically, business owners are loners. It's very difficult to find them to aggregate in one spot.
Yeah, there's no place to, like, where can I go meet all the business owners? They don't have a secret club. At
Yeah,
least
they're working. They're working.
Or networking. So if you
Right.
find the right networking organization or the right networking group.
Well, I do know that between Christmas and New Year's, when everybody else is home, if you call businesses, you got a very good chance of having the owner answer the phone.
Yeah.
Because they're the only one there.
Yeah, for sure. That's true.
Well, we've just about hit all of our topics. I'm looking to see what we have next on my thing here. Let me see what they're saying. We've got HR nightmares and war stories. So I've got a picture I want to show you, if you mind. I do this. Let's see if I can find it. I know that you love these workers' comp pictures, Tim.
Every time I see one, I think about $500,000.
Yeah, the favorite one is the one on the right, the guy in the hobby horse.
I saw one time when there was a guy working by a pool. He was doing electrical work on the house next to the pool. His extension cord wasn't long enough, so he drug the extension cord across the pool and floated it above the water with a flip-flop.
Okay, I got that picture. I think I've seen that picture. Yeah.
I've seen that one. That one. Whenever I see those pictures, it usually costs me $500,000.
Or how about my friend who's a realtor knows somebody who put a stool on top of the countertop to be able to, I think it was like change a light bulb or the fan or something up there, and the stool was not stable. It slipped, fell, hit his head, and thankfully turned out to be fine. But when he didn't come home fast enough, his wife found the phone. Like, hey, he didn't move. Let's go find him.
I guess he didn't call John Morgan.
Yeah.
As much as we fear those guys, I guess we have to thank them, because without them, we probably wouldn't be doing as much business as we do. You know, those guys on the billboard say, Dan got me this much money. Well, they do drive people to us.
They generally avoid us. I mean, they go after low-hanging fruit. So those guys are necessary, and everybody should be represented. But once they find out that they're being represented on the other side by an employee leasing company, they know that it's going to be much more difficult to get a settlement.
So it's easy to go into workers' comp stories because there's so many of those. I actually have a story that has nothing to do with workers' comp, but where a PEO came in and helped the company. And I bet you're familiar with this story, Tim. Do you know about the Hard Rock in Brandon?
Didn't hear it.
About 8 years ago, they hired an attractive young lady to be a hostess and put her in a little costume, and she went into her boss and said, look, I'm tired of getting all these wolf whistles and people telling me I'm hot. You know, these customers are coming and saying this to me. And he said, well, that's kind of why we hired you. You know, you're supposed to be representing this place. You're supposed to be attractive. They're supposed to be complimenting. She goes, it's sexual harassment, and I want it to stop. And they pulled their heads and decided, you know, put their heads together and said, we're going to put so they put up a sign saying, please do not compliment the hostess on her appearance, which of course had the exact opposite effect. Everybody started going, whoa, we're not supposed to tell you how hot you look today. Well, maybe you shouldn't wear that outfit. Oh, you want to take it off now? You know, the usual typical lousy guy things to say.
Sure.
Well, so she got an attorney and sued them. And they didn't know what to do. They had no idea of how to handle this. This case dragged out through the courts for 3 or 4 years and finally settled for somewhere in the mid 6 figures. Now, I don't know the exact amount. I've heard 125, I've heard 250, I've heard 350. I don't know exactly, but I do know this. The day after it was settled, she was terminated, okay? And they called up another broker friend of mine and said, get us a PEO. We don't want to have to deal with this anymore. I believe they ended up with Oasis, which is now owned by Paychex, but at least they're with a PEO now. And the first thing the PEO came in and said to them was, let's see your employee handbook. And they said, or what?
Yep.
You know, you need an employee handbook, you need an engagement letter, you need job descriptions to tell people what is expected of them. And once you tell the hostess that she is expected to wear the outfit, she's expected to present an attractive persona, and she's supposed to graciously accept compliments. And if they had done that, all the attorneys said, there would have been no case. So the PEO did that for them, but you might say like, well, the PEO was being nice to do that. No, they're being selfishly motivated. They don't want the lawsuit because now it's their problem, right? So they've got in the
problem
game.
that we have in society these days, and I've said this so many times, it's like somebody will do something stupid, like
that.
Like I was going to forget that we're being broadcast live. I was going to say, you know, somebody does something, you know, absolutely
2 minutes.
you know, batshit crazy. And instead of taking responsibility and people saying, you know what, that's crazy, that shouldn't have happened, address that person and address that situation, instead they hide from it and then will pass a law saying, like, overcompensating to preclude it from ever happening again and limiting everybody else's rights just so that they should never have to deal with it. Like, you did something stupid. Like, you look at all the crazy signs that you see posted.
Caution,
like,
coffee is hot.
Every one of those came from a frivolous lawsuit.
Oh, I'm sure it did. And I know it did. So, but that's exactly the point. So instead of addressing the fact that, you know what, that was stupid, you shouldn't have done that, or that was a crazy accident, accidents happen. So instead of saying, like, you know what, it was an accident, no, now somebody's going to sue, and now we're going to overcompensate and swing so far the other way so that we're going to limit everybody to minimize the chance of it happening again.
That's what keeps us in business, Tim and I, is because we come in and we do some reaction.
Sorry about that.
I'd say we're 70% prevention and 30% reacting to the incident. But you know, we're going to go in there and put in procedures, policies, employee handbook, engagement letters, you know, description of duties, safety programs to try to prevent the injuries, prevent these incidents from happening, and to give the business owner the peace of mind that they want to have. Stop them worrying about the things that keep them up at night. At least some of them. At least the employee problems. That's our niche.
Unfortunately, we do those things, and it does prevent, just by the mere fact of having those precautions up front, does mitigate a lot of what you're talking about, the legal action. But on the other side of it, when the legal action does happen, if you've ever been on the other side, and not necessarily you guys, but as a business owner who 4 employees, 5 employees have been sued, and realize that it's going to cost you $100,000 just to defend yourself, having an employee leasing company, just by having it, just by the mere fact of having it, stops it cold. Because nobody wants to fight it. Because I mean, we're $400 million a year. I mean, you want to come fight us? I got 6 lawyers over here just waiting for that to happen, and it just stops at cold.
So we're at our 5:01. We're actually a minute late, but I do have a little disclaimer that my attorneys want me to put up here. So let's tell people that what we're doing today is, fun and for educational purposes. We're not attorneys. I mean, we have given some advice, but it's not legal advice. We're sharing our stories and our possible best practices and the things that we have studied before. We do recommend that you contact your labor attorney before making any changes to your policies, or you can go to work with Tim and I, and we can hook you up with our attorneys. Either way, I want to thank you both for joining, Nancy and Tim. It's been great having you. We're going to be here hopefully every week. Tim, I hope you decide to come on as a co-host, because I think we've got something working here. So I'm going to end the Facebook Live. Thank you all for joining us. Let's see, I'm going to have to tab over to do that, so forgive me for doing that.
Nice meeting you.
So thank you for joining us.